Hail, hail, and welcome to the Temporary Stand Podcast number 36, and we are a Hail Hail Media production. This week, myself and Johnny are hosted by Marty, and we take a wee look back at Saturday's early kick-off against Inverness. We look at the lineup, who stood out, and why they stood out. After a comprehensive look back, we then move on to the big one. Tuesday night game at Celtic versus Inverness in the Champions League. We have a brief, if uneducated, look at the Inverness side before trying to second guess Lenny and who will be holding their hopes in their hands come the game. A wee note as you get into it, Marty is a problem with his mic, but we sort it out after about 13 minutes or so bear with it. As always, we hope you enjoy this effort. So nothing left for me to say but see you on the other side.
Okay folks, welcome to the Temporary Stand podcast number 36, and tonight over in not so sunny Glasgow is Johnny.
How you doing, lads?
And from sunny Cambuslang, it's Scotty Boy.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Evening to the pair of yous. Scott, you're fresh from the Homeboys Extra podcast, and anybody who listened to that podcast or will be listening will hear your desperate plea for a Turin ticket at the end of it, isn't that right?
Yep. Looking for four, one a day, but I'm looking for four.
Begging.
Johnny, what do you think of Scott pimping himself out on other podcasts in the hope of getting a ticket to a match?
Well, I hope the other guys in the Homeboys podcast know he's got ulterior motives, just to watch a ticket. That's the only reason it's on.
I think it's very
it's only a acceptable reason I can think for him doing it,
I was kindly invited by my good friend Jason, I accepted.
It's very important to clear this up at the start that Scott was actually pimping himself out on other podcasts in the hope of getting a ticket for the match. I saw the Celtic fans yesterday had some sort of banner about prostitution, so we've got our own scandal on the Temporary Stand. But we'll move on. We'll persevere.
Yeah, don't prostitute our podcast, Scott.
I prostituted it last week when Nini's turned up for it.
I was hungover. I told you I was going to be hungover before the event.
I was out looking in people's windows, so apologies. Apologies to the listeners. We were other ways engaged last week. Anyway, enough of this nonsense. Johnny, main changes for the Inverness match yesterday. Was that a shock to you or what?
No, it wasn't a shock at all. It was good that we done it and we get the win. I missed most of the first half yesterday because I was playing football, but it wasn't a shock to see that they'd made that many changes, and it shows we've got the strength and depth, and there's a lot of young boys in there, and it was good that they came from behind to win.
Were you glad when you saw the lineup? Like, were you happy or were you annoyed, or what was your feelings?
No, I was happy enough because the last thing you want is any more players picking up knocks the way Samaras and Izagiri have got knocks now, so you're kind of glad that they had the balls to actually just fully change the team, and it was good that Foster got a game before the Juve game to get rid of the ring rust.
Scotty, what was your reactions on seeing the lineup?
Pretty much the exact same as Johnny. You're looking at the team. I mean, Lennon done exactly what we all wanted him to do. You wanted Foster to get his shift. We would like to have seen Gershon and Rogic, and we didn't want to really risk any of the big players, and we wanted 3 points. As they want with Celtic, we kind of want our cake and we want to bloody eat it. So to get the 3 points was fantastic. I mean, I dare say if Celtic had dropped points, you wouldn't have been really nonplussed about it, would you? Because we're so far ahead now. But probably a bad attitude, but that's how it is. And the fact that it's Inverness who are just behind us and have gave us so many hard games all the years. I mean, that was a very, very comfortable performance, I thought, and it was good to see guys. Obviously, the two new guys was a highlight for us, but for the other guys coming in and easing into the team, whereas this season it's not really happened that well for us. I always think of the Kilmarnock game where we got beat 2-0 and they made a hell of a lot of changes and it never worked. And he seemed loath to make that many changes again. But I'm glad. I mean, it's just see if you go through the team though. Big Ronnie. If he wasn't made of chocolate, I still think the big boy would be a smashing player for the club. I really do. And I was glad to see big boy Fraser playing as well.
Johnny, who you sort of touched on it there earlier on when I was speaking to you, but who out of the nine really stood out for you?
In flashes, Rogic looked good. They got his assist, and his shots weren't the best, to be honest. But he looks confident, and he seems to acclimatise pretty quickly. He scored for under-20s the week before, and he's come in flashes yesterday. He looked really good. He looked as though he could surge forward, take somebody on, get the ball on, and he's not scared to have a dig. So probably him, and I like the way that Gershon powered in his header. I was reading after the game somewhere that he's known for attacking balls and for with corners coming in like that. So hopefully we'll get a few more. But Rogic, I've been racking my brains all weekend that Rogic looks like somebody, and I think it's Novak Djokovic. What do you think?
I think he looks like one of them Lego men.
Aye,
he's got a fantastic head of hair, as you know.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe he's just got a Lego head.
I think he has. Definitely. And I'll tell you something too. Scott, I don't know whether or not you noticed this. I know you're a fitness freak at the minute, but he looked like he was blowing out his arse the whole match. Did you notice?
I did not, no. Because, as Johnny says, we had a game of football in the morning, so that's why I wasn't at the game, and we'd missed the first 25, half an hour. And he was floating about the pitch, and I didn't know who it was. Do you know how that way you're kind of just looking, and there's this big giant guy with jet black hair, and I'm going, who's that massive guy there? I never really clocked his fitness. I thought, because I've got to admit, say when I watch games like that, I'm always looking for Paddy to come on and do something and kind of, do you know what I mean? The Paddy factor.
Well, I'll tell you what, I thought, probably better asking Johnny this. Johnny, what did you think of McCourt? Did you saw the whole game, didn't you?
No, I only seen the same Scott. I only seen the last 10-15 minutes of the first half and the second half.
Right. Yeah. Well, what I noticed about McCourt was at half time they showed a montage of his best run, so he couldn't have had that bad of a game, surely.
No, but that's the thing, as you said, at half time it shows his runs and you were hitting it, and I was looking forward to the second half, whereas he definitely fell out of it. But I think Celtic as a whole looked more impressive in the second half, more imposing. But some of his through balls were smashing and stuff. He showed. I mean, I can understand why guys don't want Paddy McCourt at Celtic, right? You've got the whole kind of personality thing with regards. He's happy enough to sit about and not get his game, and that seems to frustrate a lot of people. Whereas you get other guys like myself and yourself, Marty, kind of going, the guy's no costing you an arm and a leg, and he's useful. So what's the big hassle? Do you know what I mean?
But well, I think yesterday was a case in point. You know, he hasn't been getting overall lately, so he couldn't be match fit. But he comes on from the start yesterday night. He'd taken off. I think it was 79 minutes. I saw coming off, but he contributed really well until he went off.
But that's it. I mean, you look at his highlights. It was a couple of good through balls. Had the control up top been better, they would have led to goals and stuff like that. I like Paddy. I like Paddy because potentially he could be something great, and I don't know. I still think he should get back to his copers and get rid of the yellow boots.
But Matt, you used to like him. And you are saying that he's only pushing for him to start every week, but he's good to have. You do get people who think he should start all the time, whereas I'm totally the opposite of that. Whereas he is good to have a bit. Maybe young guys will learn some skills off him, something like that. But apart from that, his time's up at Celtic, really. And that's shown by the fact that he got took out the Champions League squad without anybody replacing him. He's no into about that.
Strange one, isn't it? It's a strange one. I don't understand that at all.
Well, there was some suggestion that that position was being left open for Kevin Doyle. Apparently, we had on the last day of the transfer window had a loan deal lined up for Kevin Doyle, and I think that was connected to if Norwich had have hit the bell in terms of money for Hooper, we had an immediate replacement to come in. And Doyle went on the record as to say that the deal was on the cards, but. You know, so I thought it was strange that, you know, leaving yourself a man short, no matter, even though usually in your 25-man squad, probably especially with 2 legs, you're hardly going to use all the whole 25, you know. But yeah. But anyway, sure. As I say, I think me and Scott, I think Johnny's probably right. You know, Paddy's times probably came. and gone. I think he's out of contract in the summertime. Whether or not Lennon wants him to stay on again, I don't know. But he certainly would put Wanyama or any of the other ones out of the midfield if everybody was fit. Johnny, speaking of the midfield, Kyle, what sort of a game do you think he had yesterday?
The same as he said all season. He kind of flits in and out of the game. There's a couple things and you don't really see him.
Mm-hmm.
But he's no driving forward. Before he got injured, he was having some cracking digs outside the box with daisy cutter shots. He doesn't really seem to have a shot anymore. And he just doesn't seem to do as much as he did. He doesn't seem to have that same intensity about him. I don't know what it is, but he's neat and tidy enough. The baby spoke about McGee kid being recently. Like this season after coming back for the Real Madrid broken jaw thing. He just he's in the game, he does something neat and tidy, but doesn't he drive the team forward. That's kind of what Kyle's doing now.
Well, that's what we were talking about yesterday, John, wasn't it? We were saying Kyle, Marty, we were sitting talking and we were talking about Celtics once again because we talk about it quite a lot. We were talking about Celtics buying policy and we kind of agreed that while we'll certainly set ourselves what the plan is, we don't think we've achieved it. We don't think we really do. We've got to where we want to go with regards selling because like guys like Kyle and Ezigueri, if we are honest, totally honest about this system, we should have punted the guys after their first season, and we would have made a wad of dough. But we were sitting saying, see Kyle now. Kyle, you'd be lucky to get £2.5 million, maybe £3 million at a stretch for Kyle. So are you really going to get much of a benefit for getting that £3 million? And Kyle now looks like he's seen his big move is kind of way, so he's happy enough just to be in Celtic, no bust his arse, take his money and just play football. That's the because there's no ultimate drive. See, Big Victor, albeit Victor every now and then lets himself down with some very below par. Generally, when it comes to the big game, Big Victor's up for it, and he's head and shoulders physically and on the pitch wise, physically better than everybody else around him, and you can see him reaching for the stars. Whereas you're looking at Kyle now going, you're just another player now, and
yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Well, yeah, because I suppose the English, if you're comparing it, right, because you can't really compare this to anybody in Scotland because nobody else is doing it, right? There's nobody else operating that system. The other teams are doing it, but on a much lower level. They're just pumping them immediately because they have to survive. If you're talking about fattening up players and selling them at their peak, you have to look at Andy Carroll. That's what Newcastle did with him. Absolutely teased in on him at the time, and you knew he was never going to replicate the form that he had and would never be worth any more. So I think, this is a much vaunted policy that we're going down the road of, but the only real one we have to show for it, I suppose, is key.
Exactly, aye. I mean,
we really should have done it with Hooper, but we've been down this road before. I don't know if we're going to do it with Wanyama because him and Hooper have deals sitting in the front.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I think that the lack of interest in Wanyama in January transfer window just smacks to me that Lennon's getting an agreement with Alex Ferguson, or Lowell's getting an agreement with Alex Ferguson that he's going to Man United. Because you barely heard a word the whole of January.
They actually said that inquiries. So it was a shock for me actually that they didn't have any inquiries. So if that sort of deal has been done, it would make sense.
But I reckon him, possibly Foster. Did you see Joe Hart yesterday? Letting that through his legs, Foster's going to get in that England team sooner rather than later. And as soon as he does, they're all going to want to sign him.
I disagree. I don't think Foster will be getting his shift in England until he is in England.
So I think he'll get his game, and then the next. Foster did take a while to acclimatise being the Celtic number one because it is a lot of pressure. And he's done that, so if he gets the game for England, doesn't have his best game, then it maybe take a bit longer. But if he goes in and has a great game against a team in a qualifier, then I reckon they'll keep it. They can't keep playing Joe Hart if his form's like this. He's been crap all season.
Yeah,
he's been clanging after clanging. The same way most English keepers have been doing the last 5-6 years.
Scott, I don't know if it was just me or you got this impression as well, but it seemed to me as if you go back and even look at the first goal, for an example, that Fraser Foster wasn't trying a leg at all at the weekend. It seemed to me he was very loath to throw himself or hurt himself in advance of Tuesday. Was that just my impression, or is that what you saw as well?
Nah, definite, mate. Definite. Exact same. There was a spell, what was the one late on the second half where Matthews cleared after line? And there was a load of times he came out, he should be clearing. I sat and watched the game with Johnny and the good lady's father, and he was cussing Foster. Oh, he's a big GA man. He's got a big dude, this big Egypt and all that. And I'm sitting going, oh, do you blame the boy? I mean, he's got a big game on Tuesday. I'm telling him, don't bother, Fraser, just leave it, just let it go. So you can't blame him for that, can you really?
No, and it seems to be we're just, we're just putting all our store in this match, So, Johnny, were you the same? Did you think, or did you think he was?
Aye, man. It's just 2 seconds before he got to Johnny. We're putting all our store, but honestly, we've put one game in it, really, haven't we? One game when we're so far ahead.
Johnny, did you get the same impression of Foster, that he was being very careful with himself?
I was probably told, don't do anything stupid, just stand there, save the waffle, comes straight at you, but don't do too much else. And make sure just to check that your neck's alright, The last thing they want to do is prepare him for the game on Tuesday and he's probably injured in the warm-up again.
Well, here's a crazy thought for you. Was there anything wrong with his neck in the first place, do you reckon?
Did you tell him to play for England?
No, I'm thinking more of Lennon saying them here, take a couple of weeks off, big lad, we need you for this match.
No.
Is that a conspiracy theory too far?
Was it Zaluska's birthday again, was it?
Do you know what I mean? But, fuck's sake.
Maybe it wasn't as bad as maybe we would have thought it is because he's been out for a few weeks, but wrapping him cotton wool, but I'd say there was an injury.
I'd say there was something there, aye.
I don't know.
Otherwise, it's a really strange thing to do.
So I ask you, Marty, what did you think of McGee?
Excellent, absolutely brilliant. I'm gonna a bit like yourselves. I missed most of the first half because I was at a family funeral, and I'm actually Andy Gorham style. I'm sitting here with a black armband on for my Auntie Maisie, who was buried on Saturday, 92 years of age. So I missed the game, but I taped it and I came back and watched it. Well, I missed the part of the first half, but I watched the full match that night when I came home, and I have to say, it's always, I don't know if you find it the same way, but it's always a much different experience watching a game, rewatching a game rather than when you're tense and you sort of get to analyse it more. And I thought McGee was absolutely brilliant. For Gershon's goal, he did that sort of double drag back, sort of shimmy Johnny Forbes type move, and it was perfect.
Through the opposition.
His knee didn't go at the time when he shook it, but I just thought he was outstanding, and I've been a fan of his, and I didn't notice it as much when I watched it the first time around, but I watched it back. I suppose with McCourt probably similar. That I think the boy's a star. Really, really good. Did you get the same impression?
Yeah. He's got something. He has got something, and we've spoke about it a few times. I don't know if he's no gave it enough in training, or he's really no gave it in the performances that he's given. I heard that there was a game this season, I think it might have been the Kilmarnock game, that he'd started, and Lennon had pulled him out the dressing room at half time and gave him a right bollocking just over his performance. So I think he might have been like, Lennon might have flung him up a couple of chances, he's no fully grabbed it, hence why he's no been. But I still think he's got that wee snap of pace. I mean, he doesn't look like the absolute screaming fastest, but he's got that snap of pace. He can control the ball at speed. He seems to have a killer pass. He plays with his head lifted. I think the boy's got a lot of talent, and I would really like to see more of him, but we're getting a result, so who's the mug?
Johnny, what do you think, McGee?
I agree with Scott. He's got really quick feet, which gets him to beat defenders. Defenders think they're going to get the ball and he'll touch it again. And that's how he beats them. He's got a good cross and stuff. But he'll probably, we're going to win the league within the next 4 or 5 weeks or something. I heard 16th of March at home at Aberdeen might be the day we could win the league. You'll probably find he'll come in after that and play the rest of the games. And that hopefully set him up for coming in next season, pushing for a starting place, because he really should be, and he get built up to be quite the star player, and then he was unfortunate in the summer. But he's got all the attributes. It's just up to him to take it to the next level.
Well, Johnny, is he, going back to what we were talking about 5 minutes ago there about the transfer policy, is he a victim of that? You know, is he the sort of player where you fatten up somebody else and sell them to bring in a player like him? Is he being held back because we're not cashing in on assets quickly enough?
It's a potential theory, but the main reason he's not been in the team this season is because he got injured pre-season and he's not managed to get his way back in. That's the bit I think. But it's interesting way of thinking of it, the way you put it there. Because you don't imagine that McGee was bought to make it a star player and punt for 7-8 million to the Premiership, do you?
No, you know, it would have been more Kyle Wanyama that you'd have been looking at, and Key, who's gone, you know, so I don't know, something that entered my mind yesterday when I was watching him. I was just wondering why.
And Forrest is definitely ahead of McGee in the pecking order.
Yeah.
But he's been injured a lot this season, so that kind of why is McGee not pushed harder to get in front of Forrest and make that, hasn't put himself in front of Forrest again.
I'd agree with that, Johnny.
That probably should have happened.
Yeah, and it's good, you know. We're you know, I suppose we're bemoaning it a wee bit, but it's good that we have these options. It's a nice problem to have, isn't it, Scott?
Definite, mate. Aye. As we said earlier on, that's the kind of performances we want after these guys, isn't it? This is what we've been expecting this season. We've dropped a load of points this season, and I can understand we've certainly put the European progress at the highest point, and the rest it kind of falls. And honestly, it falls a wee bit way behind. But these guys have got to progress. These guys have got to prove to us that they're worth their place. Celtic fans, because we're in the Champions League last 6, whatever we're past the group. Celtic fans aren't going to just accept crap. Know what I mean? That's to be fair, we're all paying our money to come and watch. I personally can't stick guys no getting 100% on the pitch. I can't get it. It's only 90 minutes. They get paid every day to go out there and perform and to. I don't accept it. I don't think it's good enough. I can understand it, but I don't accept it. So these guys can't go and bust their ass for 90 minutes. And these young guys, they've done nothing, and they've got to prove themselves. And yesterday's a start. Yes, I want to see more of that from McGee. I want to see more of that. I want to see more of the boy Fraser pushing for his places. Do you know what I mean?
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was just about to ask Johnny a question on young Fraser. Johnny, we broached the subject of Marcus Fraser about 2 weeks ago, and there he is in the starting lineup. What did you think of how he performed?
He's very vocal. He's the captain for the under-20s team, and he kind of carried his talking through into the first team. He was kind of shouting at people and stuff like that.
Right.
And after we conceded the first goal, but he looked solid enough. He had a couple of dodgy clearances maybe. But I think he's still only 18, so he's
just a boy, aye.
He's just a boy, and I think he could be a good player for us.
I can't believe he's only 18. Jesus, he was given his debut about a year and a bit ago, wasn't he?
Was it against Rennes? Was it?
A Rennes match, yeah. Jesus, just shows you we're breeding him young. My God. Johnny, looking at Fraser, and I suppose posing the same question as McGee, is there anybody there he would be pushing for a place? You know, we've got Gershon, Ambrose, Wilson. Is there any danger of him getting into the side again?
Oh, if Wilson and Ambrose can forge the same kind of partnership as they had before the African Nations Cup and Wilson's suspension, then no, he's not going to get in the team. But
can I pounce on that?
Of course you can. Go ahead.
It was something I spoke about with the lads earlier on, my other mates.
What?
I was talking to my other pals about this.
As pimp?
No, see the two guys we've got at the back, right? While the two of them have done well, they've not been outstanding. Right? Let's be honest about it. We were looking back at some of the games we've played in Europe. Oh, in fact, we're looking at all the games we played in Europe, and we had some really itchy-peachy moments this season in Europe. Right? You think of the 2 goals we gave away in Spartak Moscow. Bad goals to give away. Right? They were bad goals. You look back at Wilson. Wilson has improved unrecognisably. I mean, I think it was agreed around every Celtic fan, you would have gave this guy away if you could. I mean, there was rumours we were trying to punt him for £1 million in the summer, and I was laughing. I was like, who'd pay £1 million for that? The big boys come in, and he's not even the same player. However, we have conceded some really, really poor goals this season, and I think there's scope for anybody to come in at centre back and take a position. I really do. I mean, you even look at Spartak Moscow. Ambrose is no had a he's not really put a foot Ryan to a great extent, but then you look at how Amaniki totally destroyed him at Parkhead, and I appreciate Amaniki's a smashing big player and he costs millions of pounds, but I think there's chance for Fraser. If Fraser comes in and does his job quite, I don't see why he can't push in. I still think Neil Lennon's got his favourites, and they two centre backs will start more time than not. But you can even go back to the semi-finals and the final last year, where you would have slaughtered Big Wilson and hanging. I don't think that either one of them are beyond making big mistakes. Personally,
but the likes of Fraser are light years behind day two just now. You know, for him getting a team ahead of him.
I've only seen him once.
Exactly, I've seen him like 4 or 5 times, but they two are light years ahead of him now. So I don't see him getting in a team anytime soon, unless they start playing really, really bad or he turns into a superstar.
Well, what got him is start in the first place last year against Rennes was the injury crisis. So I'm supposing it will probably take a few to be cracked, before he gets his.
You've got to think Gershon's next in line. And if I've seen Gershon looked like a decent enough big player.
Yeah, he looks alright, doesn't he? Definitely. But speaking of decent enough big players, I suppose it was 2 of them up front, Miku and Stokes.
Yeah.
Who put the clappers on the match and seemed to provide a fairly healthy partnership. But starting with Miku first, Scott, were you impressed?
The thing that goes along with Miku by every Celtic fan I know, including myself and everybody, he's tidy. He's not. This guy's never going to absolutely bust his ass for you. I don't think it'll ever happen. He's no came for a country where forwards are supposed to be chasing down centre halves and that. Yeah. So fling that out the window. But I thought that's exactly how to describe his game yesterday. Tidy, and he got himself a goal. He's a forward, bang. That's what you want. That's what you want. I was happy with his performance. He should be happy with his performance.
I must say I like him.
I like
Johnny,
him as well.
Johnny, Miku?
I thought he looked scared yesterday when he was playing. Like scared that he was going to get kicked, because he's been kicked non-stop since he came here, and there was a few kind of 50-50s that he just wasn't interested in. But again, he was tidy. He does get the ball, retains the ball, passes it out wide, and then goes on the move again, and then he gets his goal. So in that respect, he done pretty well. But he looks scared. He doesn't look as though he totally wants to be here. But I've got a sneaky feeling he might be involved in the 2 Juve games, which is, I kind of think, why we've kept him, because he's not a sniff up until Saturday for 2 or 3 months. Since the Champions League broke after the group stages, he's not had a sniff in the first team. So I think he might be involved in the tie somewhere along the lines.
Well, he was alright against Barcelona. I don't think I'd be too worried if you were to throw him in.
Neither would I. He's suited to playing in those games, because he'll not get demolished after likes of Fraser Wright.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And the fact that Chiellini's not playing as well takes away that one guy in their team, or I'm saying this with some kind of authority. I have no idea if they've got clumpers in their team or no, but everything I've seen of Chiellini, he'll be no fear to knock you out. You know what I mean? He's a kind of old Bergamy type centre half.
Aye.
They'll miss him.
Aye, definitely they'll miss him as much as Benfica missed Luzio at Parkhead. Yeah, and I think you'll see a difference in him. So I'm sure we're going to come to Inverness. So there you go.
Yeah, we'll do that afterwards.
And Stokes,
well, yes,
Stokes had a good game.
And you were just about to you just took the words out of my mouth, because I was just about to ask you what sort of an impression you felt he made on it. Number 1 question, I suppose, is it enough to keep him in the team? And number 2 question, is it enough to get him another contract at the end of the season?
John,
Scott?
Or me? Right. I like him. I think he should be involved in the first team. I don't think, again, what I've heard is that he floats about when he's no directly involved in the game. He floats about and he doesn't keep the shape. And because he doesn't, he's another one who really, we've all seen it. He doesn't put in as much effort as we think he should do. And I think that frustrates Neil Lennon. I think that's what really, really upsets Neil Lennon, and that's why he doesn't get his game. But he sticks the ball in the pocket in the Premier League. We play in the Premier League 99% of the time. So, I mean, this guy can be winning his cups. Do you know what I mean? And Johnny'd say to me, Johnny will probably say it here, but Johnny said that he'd punt him, and I'm going, but who's going to take him? Who's actually going to give you money that's worth selling him for, personally?
Is his contract not up in the summer?
Well, I didn't realise that at the time, but
I think it is.
I've read somewhere since that his contract's up in the summer. I don't think he'll get a new contract.
I personally don't think he'll get a new contract, but I don't think it'll be anything to do with football. I think it'll be for personal reasons. I don't think they want him about the place, but
I think that's a club thing more than Lennon.
Yeah. Well, exactly. That'll be coming down from on high. But I thought his ball that Miku's goal was a belter. You know, a lovely passage. We don't do those sorts of things very often. I don't think.
Marty, I think he's underrated by Celtic fans. Not for his goals, because everybody appreciates his goals, but I think they underestimate how talented the boy is. Because I've seen him do or he kicks, some cracking through balls, some individual skill. I think Stokes is a smashing player, but he's obviously he's no willing. That's it. He's at a big club after having chances, because he's had chances in the past. I don't know, because you think about it, he had the chance to come to Celtic, and a KB does to go to Sunderland under Roy Keane, and it never worked. And he floated down the leagues, and he was going on loan here to there, and it never worked anywhere else. And he come back to Scotland, and he done a smashing job at Hibs, and Celtic got him for £1 million, and he scored the goals for us. And we've all said it a million times. He saved Neil Lennon's job at one point with the goals at Kilmarnock. And I just don't see, if he's no asking for the world, I would give him a new contract. But
well, I think my views on him, Johnny, you can come in here. If Stokes hadn't been injured those 6 months, I don't think we'd have dropped as many points before Christmas, against the lesser teams, I suppose. Would you give him another contract, Johnny, or would you just let him go?
I'd let him go. For the combination of facts that you mentioned already, I think he's a bit lazy. He doesn't do enough for the team, as Scott was saying, without the ball, which has always been Lennon's frustration with him. And off the field, they don't like his off the field behaviour or whatever. The stories are probably embellished by the media and stuff, but I just don't think he fits in with the way the team wants to go. And I don't expect to see him here next season. I expect to see him playing in the Championship, or possibly at Southampton or something like that.
All right.
And I quite like him, but I don't think he fits in with the model, the way the Celtic team want to develop.
Fair enough. Sticking with yourself then, John Pat. Looking down the team list yesterday, you had Marcus Fraser, you had McGeoch, obviously, who's a youth player as well, on the subs bench. Then you had Chalmers, Heron, Watt and Atajic. Joe Chalmers come on for the second half, and Watt come on, I think, after about 70 minutes, and actually played the wing. Was I right in spotting that he was played out wide right?
Aye.
So
he done the bad as well.
I thought he done alright.
He played that position. Was it against Benfica when he came on? He played out there. He had a couple of digs and goal. So he's good at cutting in for the right and having a dig.
And Joe Chalmers, what was your impressions? I know you've watched him in the youths.
Johnny doesn't like this guy.
It's not that I don't like it. He comes across to me like he's just happy to be there, and he just kind of goes through the emotions. And I think he gets caught out a lot with the pass in behind him. For the games I've seen him, and they get caught a couple yesterday, and up in Inverness, and he came on, lost 2 goals now, for the 5 minutes or something. But I don't know. There's something about him. I don't think he'll cut it long.
Hashtag Johnny hates Chalmers.
I don't hate Chalmers.
I'm sure that's not true.
That isn't true. And hopefully he proves me wrong. I'm just.
You said yesterday, I hope he doesn't prove me wrong.
It's not Richie we're talking to, Scott. It's John. And I know you're a big fan of the young lad Atajic, and he made it onto the bench yesterday.
Aye, it'll be nice for him to come on, because he's been good for under-20s. He's quite a silky player. But the boy Heron was on the bench. I'd quite like to see him getting a game in the first team. I know he
What sort of a player is he? We know Tajik is a striker. What sort of a player is that?
Midfielder. He can play out in the right. He can play it in the wings and he can play in the middle. But he's got a bit of temper on him, the boy. So I'd like to see him play in the SPL. See what he kind of was up if he was up against season pros, to see how he would react in a game, because he's very skillful. He's got good technique and things like that. So it'd be good to see how his temperament matched up to the first team.
In a game like that yesterday, would you have brought him on and given him a bit of a run out, or stuck with taking Gershon off and putting Matthews in?
Don't know. Maybe the guys were knackered or had a knock or something, so maybe he had intentions of putting all the young boys on. So I never really gave it much thought at all at the time. But it's a boost for them even to be on the bench. Hopefully that'll make them train even harder tomorrow when they go into work. They can talk about having been there and it was a buzz and they want to keep making it into the first team bench. But it's going to be hard because we've got such a big squad, so we'll have to train harder. We'll stay in extra to practice passing, free kicks and things like that. That's what getting in the first team squad and getting on the bench is all about. Inspiring to do better.
Yeah. It was funny, just when you mentioned about the size of the squad. Terry Butcher says that he was listening to his interview yesterday and he was saying he hadn't a clue what to say to his players before the game, and when he got the Celtic team sheet, he'd even less of a clue what to say, because half the players he'd never seen. So it just goes to show you the strength and depth of it. Went out to beat the second club in the league, sort of 3-1 pretty comfortably in the end. But anyhow, is there anything else you want to add, Scotty boy? You weren't there, so.
Inverness game,
Johnny, anything pearls of wisdom?
Oh, I have got one thing to say.
Oh Jesus, go ahead.
Why do you think Commons played? I know he only played like half the match, but I mean, and we never even spoke about his goal. It was an absolute cracking finish for him.
That was a dinger, right?
But do you think it's one of the things? The allegations is he's overweight, right? I'd love to be as overweight as Chris Commons personally, but do you think it's one of the things that Commons just one of the guys that just needs to play, just needs to kind of keep ticking off?
Johnny?
I think it is. Definitely think that's the case. He needs to play.
Did you hear Mel be saying that Lennon told Commons he was only getting 45 minutes?
That's surprising. That's no surprising, but I'm just saying.
So it was planned.
It's not the fact they only get 45. I'm talking about why did they start? Why did they?
Well, was it not they had a wee bit of experience? Just somebody who had, you had a lot of misfits, I suppose, is for want of a better phrase. And Commons maybe added that wee bit of continuity in the team. He's been in there before. No, Johnny, no.
I mean, you've got to think the Commons will be starting on Tuesday, no?
Perhaps.
He was starting on Tuesday. I think he played maybe a gear and an experienced person. But I think it was more to do with Commons needs to
keep
sharp. I
ticking
can't
on.
remember what game it was. He was blowing at his arse in the second half recently. He definitely loses the games. That's just his body. He needs that to happen to stay sharp.
Maybe. And his goal was fantastic, Johnny, wasn't
it? He barely even hit us. Hit the back of the net.
One touch.
Give him another one on Tuesday. So hopefully that's him get his shin boots on.
Maybe that's what it was. Did you hear Ray Stubbs saying it was into the postage stamp?
Right.
Did you hear him, Scott?
No.
He says, right into the postage stamp. No, it wasn't. Postage
stamp's the other side. Fair dues. Pernicky. #Pernicky.
I was going to say one of the football cliches Twitter and then I forgot. After the match. So, anyway. Right, can we draw the curtain down on this match?
Go for it, dude.
Happy days.
Surprised we spent so long talking about it.
What was that, Johnny?
I'm surprised we managed to get so much out of it.
There was plenty happening. There was lots of different changes and it was a good game, some good goals, it was a good performance. So, no, I think there was plenty to chew over. Anyway, we're moving on to part 2 of the podcast and we're going to look at the game of Juventus. Oh, this is the one we've all been waiting for. We'll all be skidding our trunks on Tuesday afternoon. Scotty, Juventus on Tuesday at home, big ass atmosphere, shower of shite in black and white coming to players. What's your feelings at this stage, a couple of days before?
Again, I'm going to be kind of reiterating what I said earlier on. I think it's going to be a hard going for us in terms of the fans, because I can see Celtic setting up not to get beat, and I can see them setting up not to get beat, and I think we're looking at a Benfica at Celtic Park type performance, with two teams just making sure that they're still in it for the second game. Juventus less so, because Juventus more looking to just take it back to their midden and do the job, whereas we're looking to still be in the tie for the second leg. That's my personal opinion. Because, I mean, you look at, we've grown up with the whole thing, Celtic Park, we beat you at Celtic Park, that's how it works, and generally that's the truth, do you know what I mean? And you think about the last, no even the Benfica game, because the Benfica game was frustrating. Everybody walked out kind of going a wee bit underwhelmed by it, and then you look back, do you remember when Bayern Munich came to town and Bayern Munich got a 0-0 draw, and it was the most frustrating thing in the world, and I can see it. I can see them being happy to frustrate the crowd, take the crowd out of the equation. I think Celtic fans have got to wise up to that. It's not going to be a blood and thunder type of game for either team. That's my thing.
Is it? I mean, I've been reading some of the coverage over the weekend, and it's very. I find it very interesting that Juventus in general, their manager and their players, are talking far more about Celtic Park than Celtic's team.
Yep.
Have you noticed?
Seen that.
That's right. Aye.
That should form part of Lennon's team talk. Probably they're saying they're not talking about you, they're talking about the fans, they're talking about the stadium. They're not even mentioning you. That's them kind of, to me, that's them saying like they're pish, but their fans will intimidate you a bit. You know?
Yeah.
Well, aye, that's good. John, so, as you say, if Neil Lennon gives him the attitude, flinging that back at him and challenge them to go for it. Know what I mean? And I don't know. I can still see us being very cautious as well.
But it's different for the Benfica game. I know what you're saying, but it's kind of different because people went into the Benfica game expecting that we were going to win. When the Tuesday night, they were only going expecting to win, and the atmosphere will still be pretty good, and I don't think they'll get as frustrated.
I don't know.
I was frustrated. I remember being really, really frustrated at drawing nothing each with Benfica. But if it happens on Tuesday night, I'll be probably pretty happy, depending on what happens in the 90 minutes.
Well, Johnny, do you feel we have? I mean, you've watched a wee bit of Juventus over the last month or so, keeping things ticking over. But do you feel we have goals in us against them? Could we score?
Yeah, we definitely could score. They play 3-5-2 or kind of a variation of that. So we could get in, but if they play 3 at the back, we could get the gaps between the wing backs and the centre halves possibly. With real wingers, especially Forrest plays and Samaras plays. I think we've got a goal in us. Don't know, they've been more willing to adapt their game as opposed to Barcelona had their game plan and they stuck to it. And that suited Celtic. Whereas we might have been studying the way Juventus play, and they might mix it up a wee bit. Because Italians are renowned for being tactically astute. So that might go against us. So which implies to me I would be probably happy with a not in each with a plan to get a draw over there. But I can see you scoring. I can see Hooper scoring on Tuesday.
Scotty, what do you think?
I don't know, mate. I disagree with regards to the support. I'm already seeing it in my head. Celtic fans getting frustrated by the whole event. Barcelona held, when we went to play Barcelona both legs, you went there thinking, here we go, we'll just here to support our team, and if we get anything out of this, happy days. Whereas I think there's a wee bit more expectancy on this. I mean, Juventus seem in photo, don't get me wrong, that's no the whole wide support, but I think people have been a wee bit more blasé about Juventus because they don't really have the massive names that they used to. Do you know what I mean? I think a load of Celtic fans would struggle to name past 2 or 3, and that's including Nicholas and Elka. Do you know what I mean? I think they'd struggle to name this Juventus team, and Italian football as a whole has kind of took a downturn, as we know, and I don't think there's the same respect for Juventus as, say, Barcelona got and I hope it. But I've said it a million times. What the fans think only affects the atmosphere. If the guys on the pitch have got their heads screwed on, then it shouldn't really matter what we think, should it?
Yep. Exactly that.
What well, for Scott, just to stick on that point, then, for those who really, I suppose, aren't familiar with their squad, who are the danger men for Juventus on Tuesday?
You've got your obvious man. Everybody knows. Pirlo. Pirlo's been reinvented at Juventus. He was released surprisingly by AC Milan. I think was it 2 years ago, John. I think last season was his first season there, and he was a revelation. He was an absolute revelation. He came in. He was a thing. He seemed to be the thing that Conte was missing in his side, and Conte's whole team went through him. So much so, I think he scored against Milan in the return game and stuff, and I think everybody knows by now. But Juventus had won the league without losing a game last year. I mean, I think that's the first time it happened in bloody God knows. Chiellini, as we already mentioned, Chiellini is going to be a massive loss for him, in my opinion. They've also got the young guy they signed from Man United, the boy Pogba, a French lad.
Pogba.
I wouldn't be totally clued. I'm saying this. I'm no clued up on Juventus as a whole, right? I'm really no. I'm going to fling you at the guys that I know, right? So Pogba has got a big reputation. Stephen Monaghan on the Homeboys today was saying that he's very much like Wanyama, whereas I thought he was more attack minded. But he says he's a big tall boy and he's the centre of the park, and it'd be interesting to see how they two match up. You've obviously got Buffon in goals, who still at this age is an outstanding goalkeeper. You're then looking at guys, say, Anelka, as I said, Giovinco's, for what I've seen him, he used to beat Juventus before and went to Parma. I think the two of them own them, as the Italian clubs do. So you've got Giovinco, who's like their James Forrest, a wee midget guy who on his day can be outstanding. And I don't know how he's really went the past year. He scores the odd goal. I don't know, is Johnny's Bednar still there?
I don't know if Bednar gets a game or not. But he's the kind of guy, see him and Anelka, they're the kind of guys you can see coming on against us and bloody scoring.
I can see Anelka coming off the bench.
Well, it's like Trezeguet.
Yeah.
Remember Trezeguet at home? Same drill.
But Trezeguet was a starter for them. He was on the bench because it was, as far as they were concerned, it was a dead rubber. There's Quagliarella, who, if you listen to Graham on the Beyond the Waves, he's an inconsistent striker. I think there's a boy Vidal. Aside for that, I'm really...
Vidal plays in the midfield. Vidal is Pirlo's partner in midfield.
Yeah, there's three of them in the middle. There's Vidal, Pirlo, and there's Marchisio. He plays for Italy.
There was a boy at the... Oh, sorry, John. Sorry,
go ahead, Johnny.
Marchisio was a great player, man. He's the Italian centre mid starting. He plays with Pirlo. He's fucking brilliant, man. He's probably my favourite player at Juve. Marchisio, he just does all the donkey work and gives the ball to Pirlo. He protects Pirlo basically. He's like the linebacker that stops the quarterback getting smashed.
And I have to say that the match about 3 weeks ago, I caught about a half an hour of
Udinese
game where they just demolished them, and Pogba really stood out in that match. That was the match I was going, bloody hell, why did Man United let him go? No, it's strange that
I didn't think they let him go, did they? I think they started playing him too late. He kind of went, no, and then Juventus went here. There's I don't know, Asamoah, he was at the African Nations.
Well, I was just about to bring him up because he doesn't seem to be racing back from the African nations in the same way Effie Ambrose is racing back. So I'm pretty sure that's a sign of confidence from Juventus that they don't need to charter a plane or something to get him in. He's a wing back, isn't he?
Get a game? He's a midfielder, but he plays at wing back now.
There's Vucinic and all that. So, well, as I said to you, right, I dare say that the average Celtic fan will struggle to name half of the guys, and we've just flung them all, and I think we fully know about three of them. You know what I mean? We're kind of taking a guess at the rest of them and going, I've heard he can do this, I heard. So I think that's why there's a lot of kind of blasé stuff coming out of Celtic fans' minds about this. It's going to be really, really hard. It's going to be really, really hard. But would Celtic have changed their tact, didn't they? Back in the day, we'd expect Celtic to go out and try and win this game, and then hope for the best in the away game. But we've done all right away from home. So now is it a case of keep it tight, don't lose an away goal, and then try and get your own one.
Well, let's move on and then have a look at us, because I think we've given it our best shot at trying to analyse the Juve team. Johnny, who are your definite starters for Celtic?
Well, Foster, on the basis that everybody's fit, and you've got the whole Ambrose thing. I don't think he's flying back toward him later on tomorrow, is he?
No, he left at full time to catch you.
Well, has Lennon no said he's no playing?
Well,
has he come out and said it?
Lennon might have said that, he might not have said that, but what I'm hearing tonight is that Ambrose left on the final whistle to fly to Lagos, and he has an economy flight booked from Lagos to London tomorrow. So he's trying to get back.
I'll believe that when I see somebody tweeting a picture of him
at the airport, like
EasyJet.
Tommy in Glasgow. Yeah, because that's.
Effie, can you hear me?
Well, Eddie Pearson had it on his Twitter, a hashtag pray for an upgrade.
I'm sure he said after that tweet that he wasn't coming back till later tomorrow.
Who said that, Johnny?
The Celtic Underground, I think, tweeted that after the joke one.
No, he has a flight booked apparently from Lagos tomorrow, so he's not flying directly back tonight. But just to go back then, if we're going to rule him, we'll rule it.
So we'll rule him out
for talk's sake, yeah.
Right,
so
okay.
who are you starting with in defence?
You're starting with changes the defence. That would have Lustig and Wilson, probably.
Controversial.
Matthews on the right and Azagir on the left.
All right. Scotty, your thoughts on the back line?
Who's Azagir?
Stop at these two for Jesus Christ.
I can't argue with that. Matthews.
Would you have Lustig in?
Yeah. I mean, who else? I think.
Well, you could have Gershon.
Nah, he's not in this 25.
He's not in the 25.
Is he not? No, okay.
And Liam Brummy Boy had already chinned me when I said maybe Mulgrew will go back. He says Lennon's already been quoted as saying that Mulgrew definitely won't be considered for the defence. So you've got to think he's in midfield for a start.
Well, okay. Are you taking him then as a midfield starter?
You've got to. I mean,
Johnny, did you just say no?
No, I said I was definitely.
Definitely, okay. And is that more to do with his left foot, or is that more to do with his delivery from set pieces? Scott?
It's free kicks.
Free kicks, corners. He's in that team in Europe to whip the balls in for strikers and corners to get on.
Johnny, does that weaken our midfield?
Has it weakened us so far in the Champions League?
I think it is. In terms of player, I find it frustrating that we've not really got anybody else within the squad, because I do think it weakens us in the centre part if he plays in the centre part, and he's no good enough. He's no skillful enough to be beating the fullback and getting the boys in the box for there. Do you know what I mean?
So where's he playing? Scott Wade left?
I don't know. We really you've got to think Scott Brown and Wanyama playing the centre part, and we'll probably start with five in midfield. So I see him playing in beside Wanyama with Scott Brown maybe pushed on.
Yeah, but they're three in the middle, I think, definitely. With Collins on the right and Samaras on the left, and Hooper up front himself, supported by Commons and Samaras.
Scotty?
That all sounds bang on. That's the way it's going to be.
Okay. So what we're hoping for again is lovely corners in from distance for Wanyama at the back post. I take it, Scott. That'll be our tactic.
That's the plan, isn't it? Commons. I laugh at Commons. We saw it against Rangers last week. Commons hasn't fear to launch himself down, and I think he's got it to an art. As soon as somebody touches him, he's done. He flings himself down, and we've seen it in European football time and time again. You need to be good at that. We might call it cheating, we might call it whatever you want, you might hate it, it might wreck your napper, but that's the way we've got to do it. Do you ever remember when the club formerly known as Rangers played Fire Nerd years and years ago, and I watched it, and they played actually pretty well that night. But Big Pierre got on the edge of the box, launched himself down twice, battered in the ball, and won. I think they won 2-1 and 2-0. I mean, you've got to take advantage in these situations. Juventus are paying millions and millions of pounds more than us, so we've got to make advantage of it. And our advantages are our height, and so in Charlemagne. So, aye, that's the way we're going to have to play, and they'll know it as well. So they'll hope to be set up a wee bit different, but sometimes you can't manage height, can you?
Johnny, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, well, we've been playing to our strengths in the Champions League all season. Score goals for set pieces and try and counter-attack now and again, and that's the way we're going to continue to do it. And if they can put up with us putting the crosses in, then fair play to them. I know that their defence can be got at. They've got the guy Barzagli, who I think he plays for Italy now, but I've never been the biggest fan of the guy. I think he can be got at. I think Scott was saying you can get Commons and Samaras drawing fouls after the guy, and then you've got Mulgrew whipping in swingers and out swingers.
He's 39 times for Italy.
39 times. I think he gets a game now, aye. But I've never really liked the guy. I think he only gets a game because I've not got many other options in the centre half department.
So we're right doing Joe Chalmers, Barzagli, hate.
I'll leave my option up.
And that leads us nicely on to the man himself, Johnny Samaras. Sure to start, isn't he?
Is he fit?
Well, he's not injured, is he?
Aye. He took a wee knock last week. Last I read he was 50-50, but this is all mind games, isn't it? You don't know who's fit and who's no fit.
Yeah. I thought it was telling that Juventus never bothered sending a scout as well. That was another thing. They didn't bother scouting yesterday's match. Now, it wouldn't have been any use to them if they had sent a scout, but they weren't arsed.
As you see, they don't seem to be. I'm kind of hoping it bites them on the arse big. It would be good, wouldn't it? I know it would be good anyway, but it'd be good. Do you know what I mean?
And again, yeah, and as Johnny was saying like earlier on, it should be extra motivation for the players. All those things should be, they should be saying all these things to them, shouldn't they, Johnny?
But they've not come out and said anything disrespectful. They've just not said much about the team.
They're just not arsed, So they have their eye on the last 8.
They should get Tony Watt to have an interview and go, I've never heard of him.
And get himself fined again. Jesus Christ.
See, then there's a prospect of Tony Watt coming on at home in the away game, I know. That he's really unpredictable. He could do something out the blue, score a goal, set up a goal. So we've always got options like that. They come in with James Forrest. Away from home will be a lethal weapon. That's what I said to Ranghinger.
Johnny, did Tony Watt come off the bench against Spartak in the last match?
I can't remember.
I was trying to think.
The Benfica game he came on and he had a couple of good chances to shoot, and I think he annoyed me that night.
He held on the ball, aye, that's right, aye.
I'm just wondering, was that sort of Lennon's secret weapon, bringing him off? But I didn't notice if he did it in the Spartak match. I must go back and check.
That's what I meant when I said James Forrest was a lethal weapon. I meant secret weapon.
I know. I think if that happens on Tuesday night, I wouldn't be one bit surprised. He throws him on 20 minutes, 25, 15 minutes to go. I could see it happening. Anyway, final thoughts. Scott, give us yours.
Aye, it's... the good thing is that Neil Lennon is built himself a wee squad. Right? I still think he's got a bit of Martin Neil in him with regards. He knows his team that he can trust, and he'll stick with it to an extent. Right? Not as bad as Martin Neil did, but I'm looking at the Juventus games of the past, right? And I'd like to talk about them for a wee bit. But the Juventus game in the past, we've got Hartson on the bench, and then you've kind of got guys like Silla, McNamara, Petr, Tebele, Guppy. And while these guys actually done all right for us, they were never kind of class acts, or never on their way to being class acts. And you think we've got guys like Tony Watt, who looks like he's going to take the big step. You've got guys like Forrest, who on his day is unplayable. It's good that he's got his team, and we've got that wee bit of trickery, we've got that wee bit of play, something we can change something about, and he's not been feared this season to make the subs when he needs to. I was giving him loads of plaudits earlier on for the Spartak Moscow away game. They went down to 10 men. They went down, by that I mean they caused the foul, so there's no crap about it. And we played exactly how 11 men should play against 10. We kept the ball. We countered exactly how we should, because they were going to be pushing. And so to kind of finish up that, 1-0 Celtic.
I was going to congratulate you for not putting in a bag for a ticket. Well done.
That's coming in my wee bit at the end.
This is Scotty's final thoughts. Be good to yourself and give me a ticket. Johnny, give me yours.
I'd be happy with not an each. Get a sneaky feeling for 1-0. But then I think if we score, then I think they might come out and try and score. So either not an each, 1-0 or 1 each, I think it'll be. I don't think there'll be many goals in the game. And then my final thought for the night, I just get Sportsing on the background here, and that guy in Juve for Hearts looks like a good player. So keep an eye on that one.
Came up from Liverpool. I thought he looked like a big donkey, but he seems to score plenty.
Okay, he hit the bar twice yesterday and scored.
Do you know what I mean? He seems to be making the most of his loan deal. As you know, I know someone at Liverpool at the minute, and they're looking at the same thing. And I think Ngu's been talking about as somebody who's taking the bull by the horns. You know,
Marty, did you go to any of the Inverness games last time we played them?
No, didn't go to Turin, didn't fancy it. And on the second, it was Halloween, the second one was, and before the draw was made, I had promised to take somebody somewhere for Halloween. I ended up getting the shit kicked out of me in Derry. Watched it in Derry. Got battered. Not nice thoughts. And my dad went, I gave my dad a ticket actually. He was talking about it yesterday. And at the final whistle, he had to get carried out of Parkhead. He took an angina attack.
God.
So you missed the game because you promised to take a bird to Derry for Halloween?
No, it wasn't a bird. You wouldn't take a bird. You wouldn't take a bird to Derry for the Halloween. Jesus Christ. No, I had to take our Keaton.
Isn't that a bird? Could you not just tell the person I'm going to sell it again?
No, it was because I couldn't go myself without taking all lemons. I had to, if one of us was going to the Celtic match, we were all going. So the other couldn't get tickets, so I had to end up fucking. I had promised that I would come up for a Halloween, so but it was done. The arrangements were all made before the fucking draw. So
you went to Derry for sex and got a down and missed the Celtic game. You missed Celtic beating Juventus 4-3.
Well, it was for sex and I was for hammering into three of my cousins who were all fellas. And we all ended up getting the shit kicked out of us anyway, so we got our lives saved by one of my dad's mates who was doing a door in a kebab shop. That's how bad Derry is. They have bouncers in the fucking Abracadabra.
And that's at Celtic Chuck.
Yes. Any Derry people want to come on give me abuse, bring it the fuck on. Every time I go up to your town I get the shit kicked out of me. Fuck sick. Nightmare. But anyway, so there's my Juventus stories. I should have been on that Homeboys Extra earlier on and told that one.
They are not Juventus stories, they're anything but Juventus stories.
Well, that's where I was. I was in a bar in Derry, wasn't it, at the time, so totally fucking got it as well, that I missed it. It was the next morning with 2 stakers, but anyway.
See the thing that always stands out to me, and I wish I should have checked up his name. I was sitting at the North Stand at that point, North Stand at the corner, at the Hugh Dallas Memorial corner, and at the end of the game, the linesman who chopped off Trezeguet's equaliser,
straight at the very end,
turned round at the final whistle and gave us a big thumbs up, a big Tony Cassidy pair of thumbs. He did, and I was like, that's class. And I felt like I was the only guy that seen it, because I floated away and I was kind of going, did anyone else see that? But no. So if you saw it,
too busy celebrating. If you saw that linesman giving the thumbs up, could you please tweet us on @temporarystand and we will share your memories with the rest of Twitterdom. Just going back to what you said earlier on too, Scott, about the bench. In that match, Alan Thompson was on the bench.
What you saying, mate?
Alan Thompson was on the bench. Was it him or Petrov? One or two.
Petrov was on the bench and Thompson. That's the return game, but I was talking about the 3-2 game all there.
Oh. Right. No, because Lubo started that match and both of those two dropped out of the team, which is odd. It's two players on your bench. My God.
We had Karine, Silla, McNamara, Thompson, Hartson, Tebele, Petrov. Well, fair dues, you've got 3 guys there, but I mean, It's light for light. It's light for light for a lot of them. Whereas I think the new we've got a bit of diversity, you know.
Yeah, different positions and things. Aye. Anyway, Johnny, have you anything else to add?
Tony Cassidy, since you mentioned him, I think he went to see the Inverness team arriving at Radisson. They put a video on YouTube. So thanks to him for doing that. It's pretty cool.
So you are
I don't know if he can speak Italian or if he was just saying the same thing in the other game, but it was good seeing the video of the players going in.
We should get Tony Cassidy on.
We should get Tony on. Anybody wants to see Tony? Tony's great. He's just great, right? As Tony
and if
Cassidy,
Tony's listening, I think it's a bit weird that Marty's got his picture as himself on Twitter as well. Yeah. Well, hopefully I'm not the only one that thinks that's a bit weird.
Like I say, he's
Marty's got a picture of Tony Cassidy.
I'm going to take him to Derry.
You don't like him then if you're going to take him to Derry? Get him a doing?
No, we're not going to do it. Well, I might give him a do. But hopefully he's smiling at the end of it. Right, enough of this nonsense. Scotty, thank you very much, son.
Cheers, Marty, well done.
And Johnny boy, good night and God bless.
Right, cheers. See you later.
Right, good night, man. Slam.
Well, that's us for another week. You can tweet up the lads with any complaints, plaudits, anything you want on Twitter. You can get us all, it's at Temporary Stand, or you can get Marty himself, and that's at Celtic Chuck. You can get Johnny at Johnny Forbes, and you can tweet myself at Scott McCorry. As I said in the podcast, I'm looking for any Inverness tickets for every game. If anybody wants to help a poor lad and his mates to support his team in a faraway land, any help would be appreciated. As we finish off the night, I decided to change tack and stick a wee tune on the end of the podcasts. So this week I'll be playing one of my favourites from one of my favourite artists. It's a live recording of a song by Scottish folk legend Dick Gaughan. And well, I'll let Dick tell you about it himself. So I'll leave you with that. It's good night, God bless, hail hail, and come on and leather belts on Tuesday. See you later.
Traditional Scottish song that I learned a hell of a lot of years ago from a wonderful old singer called Davy Stewart. It's about all kinds of prejudice really, but it bases itself around anti-Irish and anti-Highland Scots prejudice. And it's about one slightly unorthodox but highly effective way of dealing with them. And the song has got the delightful title of Erin Gabra, which means Ireland forever. My name's Duncan Campbell for the Shire of Argyll. Travelled this country for money's the mile. I've travelled through Ireland, Scotland and all, and then in my go and there's Balderran Gabra. One night in Aldrichy, as I walked in the street, a saucy big Paul as a chance for to meet. He glared in my face and he gave me some jaw, saying, when come ye over Balderran Gabra? Well, I'm not a pat, though in Ireland I've been, but am I a paddy, though Ireland I've seen. What's for a paddy? That's nothing at all, for there's many's a Baltiro from Erin Gabra. Well, I know you're a pat by the cut of your hair, your turn to Scotsman as soon as you're here. You left your own country for breaking the law, and we're seasonal stragglers from Erin Gabra. When were I a pat, and you knew it was true? Or were I the devil, then what's that to you? Were it not for the stick that you hold in your paw, then I'd show you a game played in Erin Gabra, and a lump of blackthorn that I held in my fist. Around his big body I needed to twist, and the blood frae his napper I quickly did draw, and paid him stocking and dressed for Erin Gabra. But the people came around like a flock of wild geese, saying, catch that daft rascal, he's killed the police. And for every friend I had him share he at twa. It was terrible hard times for Erin Gabra. and I come to a wee boat that sails in the Forth. And I packed up my gear and I steered for the north. Farewell to old Ricky, your Paulus and all, and the devil gang with you says Edinburgh. So come on, you young people, wherever you're from, I don't give a damn to what place you belong. I come from Argyll and Hill and Sabraw, but I ne'er took it ill being called